In the vast and endless expanse of space where stars shimmered like tiny diamonds scattered across a black velvet canvas, a fleet of alien ships approached Earth. These were not ordinary visitors. They were the Vrillians, a race known throughout their galaxy for their strength, cunning, and ruthless ambition. For centuries they had conquered countless worlds, expanding their empire with cold efficiency. To them, Earth was just another target, a small blue-green planet teeming with life but seemingly primitive and defenseless. They came in silence, cloaked by advanced technology that made their ships invisible to even the most sophisticated human radar systems. But what they didn't know was that Earth wasn't as vulnerable as it appeared. The Vrillians arrived under the cover of night, their massive mothership hanging ominously at the edge of Earth's orbit, while smaller scout ships descended closer to the atmosphere. The crew aboard the lead ship buzzed with excitement. Their mission was simple: assess the planet's defenses, identify weaknesses, and prepare for invasion. Commander Zixar, a tall, insect-like being with glowing green eyes and sharp mandibles, stood on the bridge of his ship, staring at the holographic display of Earth below. "This will be easy," he muttered to himself, his voice low and raspy. "These humans won't even see us coming." But as the scout ships moved closer to Earth's atmosphere, something strange began to happen. At first, it was subtle, a faint shimmer in the air, almost like heat waves rising from asphalt on a summer day. Then, without warning, the sky above Earth seemed to split open. It wasn't an explosion or a storm. It was as if the heavens themselves had been torn apart, revealing something hidden beneath. The Vrillian crew froze in shock as massive structures emerged from the rift. Star destroyers, gigantic, metallic, behemoths bristling with weapons and glowing energy cores, rose into view, casting long shadows over the planet below. Each ship was larger than anything the Vrillians had ever seen, dwarfing their own fleet like insects next to mountains. Commander Zixar stumbled back from the view screen, his mandibles twitching in disbelief. His mind raced, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. How could such enormous ships have remained hidden? Why hadn't their sensors detected them earlier? And most importantly, who or what had built them? The questions swirled in his head, but one thing was clear: this changed everything. The Vrillians weren't dealing with a primitive civilization anymore. Whoever controlled those star destroyers possessed technology far beyond anything they had encountered before. Panic spread through the Vrillian fleet like wildfire. On the scout ships, crews scrambled to recalibrate their instruments, hoping to find some flaw in the readings. Surely, this was a trick, some kind of illusion meant to intimidate them. But no matter how many tests they ran, the results were undeniable. The star destroyers were real, and they were armed to the teeth. Weapons turrets glowed ominously along their hulls, and energy shields pulsed with power. Even worse, the destroyers seemed to be moving in perfect synchronization, forming a protective barrier around Earth. It was as if the planet itself had grown claws and fangs, ready to strike back against any threat. Back on the mothership, Zixar tried to maintain control of his crew. He barked orders, demanding updates and contingency plans, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. For the first time in his long career, he felt fear, a deep, gnawing sensation in the pit of his stomach. What should they do? Retreat? Attack? Or try to communicate? The decision weighed heavily on him, knowing that the fate of his entire fleet rested on his shoulders. If he made the wrong choice, it could mean disaster. Not just for this mission, but for the entire Vrillian Empire. As the moments dragged on, the tension aboard the mothership became unbearable. Every second felt like an eternity, every breath laden with uncertainty. Finally, after what felt like hours, Zixar made up his mind. "Send a signal," he ordered, his voice trembling slightly despite his best efforts to sound authoritative. "Let's see if these beings are willing to talk." His communications officer hesitated, clearly unsure whether this was a wise move, but Zixar silenced him with a sharp glare. "Do it," he snapped. "We need answers." The signal was sent, a simple, neutral message designed to convey curiosity rather than hostility. For several agonizing minutes there was no response. The Vrillians held their collective breath, waiting for some sign of acknowledgement. Then, just when Zixar was about to order a retreat, the main view screen flickered to life. A figure appeared, a human woman dressed in a sleek uniform adorned with insignias unfamiliar to the Vrillians. Her hair was pulled back neatly, and her expression was calm but firm. She looked directly into the camera, her piercing gaze seeming to pierce through the screen itself. "We do not seek conflict," she said in fluent Galactic Standard, the universal language used by most spacefaring species. Her voice carried an authority that commanded attention, leaving no room for doubt. "But we will defend ourselves if necessary." Zixar blinked in surprise. Humans, primitive humans, were controlling those star destroyers? It didn't seem possible. Yet, here she was, speaking with confidence and poise, as if she represented a force far greater than her fragile appearance suggested. Zixar cleared his throat, trying to regain his composure. "I am Commander Zixar of the Vrillian Empire," he replied, injecting as much arrogance into his tone as he could muster. "Your presence here is unexpected. Explain yourselves." The woman tilted her head slightly, as if amused by his bravado. "Commander Zixar," she said, her voice steady, "these ships are not here for you. They are here because we sensed your intentions. We monitor all threats to our world." Her words sent a chill down Zixar's spine. Sensed their intentions, monitored threats? Just how advanced were these humans? He glanced at his science officer, who shrugged helplessly. None of their scans had detected any signs of surveillance or intelligence-gathering capabilities. Whatever technology these humans possessed, it was far beyond anything the Vrillians had encountered before. For the first time in his life, Zixar found himself questioning his assumptions. Could it be true? Had humanity evolved in ways that defied logic? Or was this some elaborate ruse designed to deceive them? Either way, one thing was certain: Earth was no longer the easy target they had anticipated. As the conversation continued, Zixar realized he was facing something far more complex and far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. And so, the Vrillians found themselves caught between two choices: fight or negotiate. Both options carried risks, but neither could be ignored. As the star destroyers loomed above them, silent and imposing, Zixar knew that the decisions he made in the coming hours would shape not only his own destiny, but also the future of his people. The stage was set for a confrontation unlike any other, a meeting of two civilizations separated by light years of distance but united by the shared desire to survive. The silence on the Vrillian mothership was deafening as Commander Zixar stared at the human woman on the view screen. Her calm demeanor and unwavering confidence unsettled him more than he cared to admit. For centuries, the Vrillians had prided themselves on being the most advanced and fearsome species in their corner of the galaxy. They had crushed rebellions, dismantled empires, and turned countless worlds into colonies. Yet here they were, face to face with a civilization that seemed to possess technology far superior to anything they had ever encountered. Zixar cleared his throat again, trying to regain some semblance of control over the situation. "You claim you monitor threats," he said, his voice sharper now, laced with skepticism. "But how? Your people are primitive. We have studied your transmissions, your wars, your chaos, your inability to unite even among yourselves. How could you possibly develop such power?" The human woman didn't flinch. Instead, she smiled faintly, as though she had been expecting this question all along. "Appearances can be deceiving, Commander," she replied, her tone measured but firm. "Your observations are outdated. Humanity has evolved since then. We learned from our mistakes, we adapted, and when we looked to the stars we realized one thing: survival requires preparation." Her words hung in the air like a challenge. Zixar's mandibles twitched in frustration. He wanted to dismiss her claims as lies, but deep down he knew better. The star destroyers hovering above Earth weren't illusions or tricks. They were real, and so was the threat they posed. Still, pride refused to let him back down completely. "If what you say is true," he countered, leaning forward slightly, "then why reveal yourselves now? Why not strike first? The woman's expression softened, though her eyes remained sharp and calculating. Because we don't believe in unnecessary violence, she said simply. We built these ships not to conquer, but to protect. Our goal is peace, not destruction. But make no mistake, Commander, if provoked, we will defend ourselves. This revelation struck Zixar like a physical blow. Peace, protection. These concepts were foreign to the Vrillians, whose entire culture revolved around domination and expansion. To them, strength existed to be wielded, not restrained. Yet, as he listened to the woman speak, Zixar couldn't help but feel a flicker of curiosity. What kind of species prioritized defense over offense? What drove them to create such immense power without using it for conquest? Before he could dwell further on these thoughts, the woman introduced herself. I am Captain Elena Vega, leader of the United Earth Fleet aboard the Aegis, she said, gesturing toward the largest of the star destroyers behind her. And I assure you, Commander, we are not your enemies, unless you give us reason to be. The name sent a ripple through the bridge. Even Zixar found himself momentarily distracted by the implications. United Earth Fleet? The idea that humanity had managed to set aside its differences and unite under a single banner was almost incomprehensible. Wars, political divisions, environmental crises, all the things that had once defined Earth seemed to have vanished overnight. Or perhaps not overnight. Perhaps humanity's transformation had been gradual, hidden from outside observers until now. Commander Zixar hesitated before speaking again. His instincts screamed at him to retreat, to regroup and reassess the situation. But something about Captain Vega's words intrigued him. There was an honesty in her voice, a conviction that went beyond mere bravado. She wasn't just bluffing. She truly believed in what she was saying. And if that was true, then the Vrillians might have underestimated humanity in ways they couldn't yet comprehend. Captain Vega, Zixar began, choosing his words carefully. If your intentions are peaceful, then why did you conceal your presence? Why hide these ships from the rest of the galaxy? Vega's smile widened slightly as if she had anticipated this question too. Because trust must be earned, Commander, she explained. For years we observed other civilizations, yours included, from afar. We saw the patterns of exploitation, the cycles of war and conquest. We chose to remain silent because we needed time to prepare. Time to ensure that when we finally revealed ourselves, we would do so from a position of strength. Her explanation only deepened Zixar's unease. It painted a picture of a species that was not only technologically advanced, but also strategically patient. A dangerous combination. The Vrillians prided themselves on their ability to adapt quickly, to seize opportunities as they arose. But humanity's approach was different. They had waited, watched, and planned, biding their time until they were ready. And now, with their star destroyers unveiled, they held all the cards. Despite his growing apprehension, Zixar couldn't deny the brilliance of their strategy. By revealing themselves only when absolutely necessary, humanity had maintained the element of surprise. Had the Vrillians launched their invasion as planned, they would have walked straight into a trap. The thought sent a shiver down Zixar's spine. If Captain Vega was telling the truth and every instinct told him she was, the Vrillians had narrowly avoided disaster. As the conversation continued, Vega offered more details about humanity's rise. She spoke of centuries of hardship, environmental collapse, nuclear wars, pandemics that had brought Earth to the brink of extinction. Desperate to survive, humanity had united under a single global government, pooling its resources and knowledge to rebuild. Along the way, they discovered remnants of alien technology scattered across the planet, left behind by crashed probes and derelict ships. Reverse engineering these artifacts had accelerated their technological growth exponentially. But it wasn't just about technology, Vega added, her voice taking on a reflective tone. It was about mindset. We realized that our old ways of thinking, our greed, our division, were what had nearly destroyed us. So we changed. We focused on cooperation, on sustainability, on protecting not just ourselves but the future of our planet. That's why we're here today, Commander. Not to conquer, but to preserve. Zixar listened intently, his mind racing. Everything Vega said challenged everything he had ever known about power and progress. To the Vrillians, strength was synonymous with aggression, weakness was punished, and mercy was seen as a flaw. Yet humanity had taken a different path, one rooted in resilience and restraint. It was a philosophy that both fascinated and unnerved him. Back on Earth, news of the encounter spread rapidly. While the general public remained unaware of the Vrillian fleet's presence, key leaders within the United Earth government convened an emergency meeting to discuss the situation. Some argued that the aliens should be driven away entirely, citing the potential danger they posed. Others advocated for diplomacy, pointing out that humanity's newfound strength gave them leverage to negotiate from a position of power. Ultimately, Captain Vega convinced her superiors to pursue a cautious middle ground. "This is an opportunity," she insisted during the meeting. "Not just to show the galaxy who we are, but to prove that there's another way, a better way to coexist. If we can turn the Vrillians away from their path of conquest, imagine the ripple effect it could have across the stars." Her argument won the day, and orders were issued to continue negotiations. Meanwhile, aboard the Vrillian mothership, Zixar found himself wrestling with his own doubts and fears. He had always believed in the inevitability of conflict, that survival required domination. But Captain Vega's words planted seeds of doubt in his mind. Was there merit to humanity's approach? Could a civilization truly thrive without resorting to aggression? As the hours passed, the two sides exchanged information cautiously, each probing for weaknesses while testing the other's resolve. The Vrillians shared details about their empire, hoping to gauge humanity's reaction. In turn, the humans provided glimpses of their technological advancements, careful not to reveal too much. Through it all, Captain Vega remained steadfast, her composure never wavering. By the end of the day, a fragile truce had been established. The Vrillians agreed to withdraw their fleet temporarily, giving both sides time to process the events and consider next steps. As the alien ships disappeared into the void of space, Zixar couldn't shake the feeling that nothing would ever be the same again. For the first time in his life, he questioned the righteousness of his people's mission and wondered if humanity's vision of peace might hold the key to a brighter future for them all. As the Vrillian fleet retreated into the depths of space, Commander Zixar sat alone in his quarters, staring at the holographic display of Earth suspended above his desk. The image was small and distant, yet it loomed large in his mind. He replayed the conversation with Captain Elena Vega over and over again, her words echoing in his thoughts like a haunting melody. "We don't believe in unnecessary violence," she had said. "Our goal is peace, not destruction." It was a philosophy so alien to him that it felt almost impossible to comprehend. For centuries, the Vrillians had operated under a simple belief: power existed to be used. Their empire had been built on conquest, their culture shaped by the pursuit of dominance. Weakness was punished, mercy seen as a flaw, and survival equated with strength. Yet here was humanity, a species that had faced extinction and emerged stronger, not through aggression but through unity and restraint. They had chosen preservation over plunder, defense over destruction, and now Zixar found himself questioning everything he had ever known. The doubts gnawed at him relentlessly. Was the Vrillian way truly the best way? Or had they simply been blind to other possibilities? These questions weighed heavily on his mind as he prepared for the next phase of negotiations. Though the fleet had withdrawn temporarily, contact between the two civilizations continued. Humanity, true to its word, offered no immediate threat, but made it clear that their star destroyers remained vigilant. Every message sent by Captain Vega carried an unspoken warning: cooperate or face consequences. Back on Earth, discussions about the Vrillians dominated meetings among human leaders. While some argued for caution, fearing that the aliens might use diplomacy as a ruse to gather intelligence, others saw this as an opportunity to reshape the galaxy's future. Captain Vega was among those who believed in the latter. She stood before the United Earth Council, her voice steady and resolute. These beings are not monsters, she told them. They are products of their environment, shaped by centuries of conflict and competition. But change is possible. If we can show them another path, one rooted in cooperation rather than domination, we may inspire others across the stars to follow suit. Her argument swayed many, though skepticism lingered. After all, the Vrillians were known for their ruthlessness. Could they truly abandon their ways? Or would they simply bide their time, waiting for an opening to strike? The Council ultimately decided to proceed cautiously, agreeing to share limited knowledge with the Vrillians while keeping their most advanced technologies secret. The hope was that even small gestures of goodwill could plant seeds of transformation. Meanwhile, aboard the Vrillian mothership, Zixar grappled with similar debates. His crew was divided. Some viewed humanity's offer of cooperation as a trap, a clever ploy designed to lull them into complacency before launching a devastating attack. Others, however, were intrigued by the prospect of learning from these humans. "Think about it," one of his advisors argued during a heated meeting. "Their technology surpasses ours in ways we can barely imagine. Imagine what we could achieve if we adopted even a fraction of their methods." Zixar listened intently, weighing both sides of the argument. On one hand, caution was essential. Trusting humanity too quickly could prove disastrous. On the other hand, the potential benefits were undeniable. For years, the Vrillian Empire had stagnated, relying on brute force rather than innovation. Perhaps it was time for a change. With mixed feelings, Zixar authorized a second round of negotiations. This time the discussions were more detailed, focusing on specific areas of collaboration. Humanity proposed sharing advancements in energy efficiency, sustainable resource management, and medical technology, all fields where the Vrillians lagged behind. In return, they requested access to certain aspects of Vrillian engineering, particularly in propulsion systems and materials science. Both sides approached the exchange warily, each fearing betrayal but also recognizing the mutual benefits. As the days turned into weeks, a tentative partnership began to form. Engineers from both civilizations exchanged ideas through secure communication channels, carefully monitored by representatives from both sides. Scientists collaborated on joint research projects, exploring ways to combine human ingenuity with Vrillian expertise. Even military personnel participated, training together in simulated environments to better understand each other's tactics and strategies. Despite the progress, tensions occasionally flared. Misunderstandings arose due to cultural differences, and old prejudices sometimes surfaced. A Vrillian officer once dismissed a human counterpart's suggestion as naive, only to later realize that the idea held significant merit. Similarly, a human scientist grew frustrated when a Vrillian colleague refused to consider alternative approaches to problem solving. But slowly, trust began to build. Each success, no matter how small, reinforced the notion that cooperation was possible, even between former adversaries. One breakthrough came when a team of human and Vrillian engineers developed a new type of energy shield capable of withstanding extreme conditions. The innovation promised to revolutionize space travel, making long journeys safer and more efficient. When the prototype was unveiled during a joint presentation, cheers erupted from both sides. For the first time, the line between us and them began to blur. Captain Vega watched these developments with quiet satisfaction. She knew the road ahead would be challenging, but she also saw glimpses of hope. During one exchange, a young Vrillian engineer approached her, his mandibles twitching nervously. "Captain Vega," he said hesitantly, I wanted to thank you. Your people have taught us things we never thought possible, things that could help our own world." Vega smiled warmly, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "That's why we're doing this," she replied. "Not to conquer, but to uplift, to show that there's another way." Word of these interactions spread throughout the Vrillian fleet, sparking curiosity and admiration among the lower ranks. Many had grown disillusioned with the Empire's endless cycle of warfare and exploitation. Seeing humanity's example gave them hope, a vision of what their own civilization could become. Even Zixar, who had once scoffed at the idea of peace, found himself inspired by the possibilities. But not everyone shared this optimism. Back on the Vrillian homeworld, news of the negotiations reached the ruling council, sparking outrage among hardliners. "This is madness," one elder thundered during an emergency session. "We cannot allow ourselves to be influenced by these primitives. Our strength lies in our dominance, not in weakness disguised as cooperation." Zixar listened to the debate via live transmission, his antennae twitching with frustration. He understood their concerns, their fear of losing control, but he also knew that clinging to outdated ideals would only lead to ruin. As the arguments raged on, he made a decision. Gathering his senior officers, he presented a bold proposal: to continue working with humanity, not as conquerors but as partners. If we refuse to adapt, he told them, we will fall behind. The galaxy is changing whether we like it or not. Humanity has shown us a glimpse of what the future could hold. Are we brave enough to embrace it? His words struck a chord. Though resistance remained, a growing number of Vrillians began to see the wisdom in his plan. Slowly but surely, the tide began to turn. What had started as a fragile truce evolved into something deeper, a tentative alliance forged not out of necessity but out of mutual respect. And so, as the stars twinkled silently in the vast expanse of space, two civilizations, once poised for war, began to walk a new path together. It was a journey filled with uncertainty, challenges, and risks. But for the first time in history, humanity and the Vrillians dared to dream of a future where strength was measured, not by the weapons one wielded but by the bridges one built. As the alliance between humanity and the Vrillians deepened, the ripple effects of their cooperation began to spread across the galaxy. For the Vrillians, who had long prided themselves on their dominance, this newfound partnership was both humbling and transformative. Back on their homeworld, debates raged among the ruling council about whether they should fully embrace this new direction or return to their old ways. The hardliners, clinging to centuries of tradition, argued that aligning with humans would weaken their empire. But others, inspired by Commander Zixar's reports, saw an opportunity to reshape their society for the better. On Earth, Captain Elena Vega stood before the United Earth Council once again, this time with a sense of cautious optimism. "What we're doing isn't just about survival," she told the assembled leaders. "It's about setting an example. If we can turn former enemies into allies, then maybe other civilizations will follow suit. Imagine a galaxy where strength is defined not by conquest, but by collaboration." Her vision resonated deeply, especially among younger generations who had grown up in a world united under one banner. They saw the Vrillians not as monsters, but as beings capable of change, a testament to the power of patience and understanding. Social media buzzed with discussions about the alliance, with hashtags like New Galaxy and Peace Through Unity trending worldwide. People shared images of human and Vrillian engineers working side by side, their differences fading in the face of shared goals. But the journey was far from smooth. Cultural clashes continued to surface, testing the fragile bonds between the two species. One incident nearly derailed everything when a group of Vrillian soldiers, frustrated by what they perceived as overly restrictive protocols, staged a minor rebellion aboard their mothership. They accused Zixar of betraying their heritage by allying with humans, claiming that such cooperation made them soft and vulnerable. The uprising was quickly quelled, but it sent shockwaves through the fleet. Zixar addressed his crew personally after the incident, his voice firm yet compassionate. "Change is never easy," he admitted, standing at the center of the ship's main assembly hall. "I know many of you feel uneasy about this path we've chosen, but ask yourselves, would you rather cling to the past, knowing it leads only to stagnation, or take a step forward into the unknown? Yes, there are risks, but there are also rewards that could redefine our place in the stars." His words struck a chord, particularly among the younger Vrillians who had grown disillusioned with endless wars and resource depletion. Slowly, resistance began to wane, replaced by a growing curiosity about humanity's way of life. Some Vrillians even requested permission to visit Earth, eager to see firsthand the planet that had defied all expectations. After careful deliberation, the United Earth government agreed, organizing cultural exchange programs designed to foster mutual understanding. The first group of Vrillian ambassadors arrived on Earth amid tight security and widespread media coverage. Towering over their human hosts, their insect-like features and glowing eyes drew gasps of awe and wonder. Yet beneath their intimidating appearance lay individuals curious and eager to learn. They marveled at Earth's diversity, the vibrant cities, lush forests, and sprawling oceans, all preserved through careful stewardship. One ambassador, named Krelt, expressed amazement during a public address. "Your people have achieved something remarkable," he said, his translator device giving his voice a mechanical edge. "You've turned chaos into harmony. That is a lesson we must carry back to our own world." In return, the humans were invited to tour the Vrillian homeworld, a harsh and barren planet ravaged by centuries of exploitation. The contrast was stark. Where Earth teemed with life, the Vrillian world seemed almost lifeless, its skies choked with industrial smog and its landscapes scarred by mining operations. Yet, despite its bleakness, the humans found beauty in the resilience of the Vrillian people. They learned how the species had adapted to survive in such harsh conditions, developing unique technologies and social structures to endure. These exchanges laid the foundation for deeper collaboration. Scientists from both civilizations worked together to develop solutions for environmental restoration, hoping to heal the damage done to the Vrillian homeworld while preventing similar catastrophes on other planets. Engineers combined human creativity with Vrillian precision to create groundbreaking advancements in sustainable energy, space travel, and medical technology. Even artists joined forces, blending human storytelling with Vrillian visual artistry to produce works that celebrated their shared journey toward peace. Yet, amidst these achievements, tensions occasionally flared. Old prejudices died hard, and misunderstandings often led to friction. During one joint mission to explore a distant star system, a disagreement erupted over leadership roles. A human officer insisted on taking charge, citing superior experience, while a Vrillian counterpart argued that their traditional hierarchy should prevail. The argument escalated until Captain Vega intervened, reminding both sides of the larger purpose behind their mission. "We're not here to prove who's better," she said firmly. "We're here to work together, for the benefit of both our peoples." Her intervention diffused the situation, but it served as a reminder that unity required constant effort. It wasn't enough to simply declare an alliance. Trust had to be nurtured daily, brick by brick. Over time, however, these challenges became opportunities for growth. Each conflict resolved brought the two civilizations closer, teaching them valuable lessons about compromise and empathy. Back on Earth, public opinion shifted dramatically. What had started as fear and skepticism toward the Vrillians transformed into admiration and respect. Stories of their transformation inspired countless documentaries, books, and films, portraying them not as villains but as partners in humanity's quest for a better future. Schools introduced curricula focused on interstellar diplomacy, emphasizing the importance of coexistence over conflict. The phrase, "We don't kill humans, we learn from them," became a rallying cry, symbolizing the potential for redemption and renewal. For Zixar, the changes within his own ranks were equally profound. Once feared as a ruthless commander, he now earned loyalty through wisdom and compassion. His decision to pursue peace had sparked a revolution, not through violence, but through example. Younger officers looked up to him as a visionary leader, someone who dared to challenge the status quo. Even some elders, initially resistant to change, began to soften their stance, recognizing that survival depended on adaptation. By the end of the first year of cooperation, the Alliance had achieved milestones once thought impossible. Together, humans and Vrillians launched a joint exploration fleet, venturing farther into the galaxy than either species had gone alone. Their ships carried not weapons, but tools of discovery, advanced telescopes, probes, and terraforming equipment designed to unlock the mysteries of the universe. Along the way, they encountered other civilizations, some hostile, others curious. In every interaction, they presented a united front, demonstrating that strength lay not in division, but in unity. One encounter stood out above the rest. While charting an uncharted sector of space, the fleet stumbled upon a dying star system inhabited by a desperate species known as the Xyranthians. Their planet was on the brink of collapse, its atmosphere dissipating and its resources nearly depleted. Faced with extinction, they pleaded for help. Without hesitation, the Human-Vrillian Alliance sprang into action, deploying their combined expertise to stabilize the planet's environment and provide emergency aid. When the Xyranthians asked why strangers would risk so much for them, Captain Vega replied simply, "Because no one should face the end alone." News of this act of kindness spread rapidly, reaching civilizations light years away. For the first time, the galaxy began to see humanity, and by extension, the Vrillians, not as threats, but as guardians. Invitations poured in from neighboring systems, eager to establish diplomatic relations and learn from their example. Trade agreements were signed, scientific partnerships formed, and cultural festivals celebrated. The seeds of a new era had been planted, one rooted in hope rather than fear. As Zixar gazed out at the stars from the bridge of his ship, he felt a profound sense of pride, not for himself, but for what they had accomplished together. Humanity had taught him that true strength came not from domination, but from the ability to adapt, to grow, and to inspire others. And though challenges undoubtedly lay ahead, he knew they were ready to face them, not as conquerors but as pioneers of a brighter future. In the vast expanse of space where darkness often seemed infinite, a new light had emerged, one born, not of fire but of understanding. It was a beacon of hope, shining brightly for all to see, proving that even the most unlikely alliances could change the course of history. Years had passed since the Vrillians first encountered humanity, and the galaxy was no longer the same. What had begun as a tense standoff between two vastly different civilizations had evolved into something far greater, an alliance that transcended borders, species, and even time itself. The star destroyers of Earth, once symbols of fear and mystery, were now beacons of hope, their presence inspiring other worlds to seek peace rather than conflict. For Commander Zixar and Captain Elena Vega, the journey had been long and fraught, with challenges, but it had also been rewarding in ways neither could have imagined. On the Vrillian homeworld, the changes were undeniable. Gone were the days when the skies were choked with smog and the land scarred by endless mining operations. Thanks to joint efforts with humanity, the planet was slowly healing. Forests began to regrow, rivers ran cleaner, and the air smelled fresher than it had in centuries. The Vrillians themselves had undergone a transformation, not just physically as cleaner environments improved their health, but culturally as well. Art, music, and literature flourished, inspired by the stories of cooperation and resilience shared by their human allies. A new generation of Vrillians grew up learning not about conquest and domination, but about empathy, innovation, and coexistence. Back on Earth, the impact of the Alliance was equally profound. Humanity's role in the galaxy had shifted dramatically. No longer seen as fragile or primitive, they were now regarded as guardians, wise stewards of technology and knowledge who used their power for good rather than greed. The United Earth Fleet expanded its reach, establishing diplomatic missions across dozens of star systems. Trade routes opened, bringing prosperity to countless worlds. Medical advancements developed through collaboration saved millions of lives, while sustainable energy solutions helped preserve ecosystems on planets teetering on the brink of collapse. But perhaps the most significant change was within humanity itself. Living alongside another intelligent species had taught them humility and patience. They realized that their survival depended not just on strength but on understanding, the ability to listen, adapt, and grow. Schools across Earth incorporated lessons from the Alliance into their curricula, teaching children about the importance of unity and compassion. Books, films, and art celebrated the shared achievements of humans and Vrillians, creating a cultural legacy that would endure for generations. The bond between the two civilizations deepened further during a crisis that tested everything they had built together. It began with reports of an anomaly, a massive black hole forming at the edge of explored space. Scientists quickly determined that its gravitational pull threatened to destabilize entire star systems, including those inhabited by both humans and Vrillians. Panic spread as simulations predicted catastrophic outcomes: planets torn apart, stars extinguished, and civilizations wiped out in an instant. Faced with this existential threat, humanity and the Vrillians mobilized their combined resources. Engineers worked around the clock to design a solution, drawing on technologies from both species. The result was the Eclipse Array, a network of satellites equipped with experimental gravity manipulation devices capable of containing the black hole's destructive forces. Constructing the array required unprecedented levels of coordination, as teams traveled light years to position each satellite precisely where it was needed. Commander Zixar led the operation aboard his flagship, coordinating efforts across multiple sectors of space. "This is our moment," he told his crew during a briefing. "Everything we've learned, every sacrifice we've made, it all comes down to this. Together, we can protect not just our worlds, but countless others." Captain Vega echoed his sentiment back on Earth. Addressing her team before departure, she said, "We've shown the galaxy what's possible when we stand united. Now let's prove it again. Let's show them that we're not just survivors. We're builders. We create, we protect, and we endure." The deployment of the Eclipse Array was a monumental undertaking, requiring months of meticulous planning and execution. Ships from both fleets braved treacherous conditions near the black hole, their crews risking their lives to ensure each component was placed correctly. At one point, a Vrillian vessel nearly succumbed to the intense gravitational forces, but a human rescue team arrived just in time, pulling the damaged ship to safety. Moments like these reinforced the trust and camaraderie forged over years of cooperation. Finally, after months of effort, the array was complete. As the last satellite activated, the black hole's chaotic energy began to stabilize. Its once unstoppable pull weakened, allowing nearby star systems to breathe easy once more. Cheers erupted across ships and planets alike as news of the success spread. For many, it was proof positive that humanity and the Vrillians were stronger together than apart. In the aftermath of the crisis, the Alliance reached new heights. Other civilizations, inspired by their example, sought partnerships with Earth and the Vrillians. Some offered resources, others shared ancient knowledge, and a few even joined the fight against threats like rogue asteroids or hostile invaders. Slowly but surely, the galaxy began to unite, not under a single banner, but through a network of alliances built on mutual respect and shared goals. One such partnership emerged with the Xyranthians, the dying species humanity, and the Vrillians had saved years earlier. Grateful for their second chance, the Xyranthians dedicated themselves to aiding others in need. Their unique biology allowed them to thrive in harsh environments, making them invaluable in terraforming projects aimed at restoring barren worlds. In return, humanity and the Vrillians provided them with advanced medical treatments and agricultural techniques, ensuring their continued survival. As the years turned into decades, the influence of humanity and the Vrillians grew exponentially. They became mediators in interstellar disputes, negotiators in trade agreements, and mentors to emerging civilizations. Their star destroyers, once feared as instruments of war, now served as mobile embassies, traveling from system to promote peace and cooperation. Even the phrase, "we don't kill humans, we learn from them," took on a broader meaning, symbolizing a philosophy embraced by species across the galaxy. For Captain Vega, the culmination of this journey came during a ceremony held aboard the Aegis. Representatives from dozens of civilizations gathered to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Alliance. Speeches were given, awards presented, and songs sung in languages unfamiliar yet universal in their message of gratitude. When it was her turn to speak, Vega stood at the podium looking out at the diverse crowd before her. "When I first met Commander Zixar," she began, her voice steady but filled with emotion, "I thought we were staring into the face of destruction. Instead, we found an opportunity to build something better. Today we stand not as conquerors or victims but as equals. Together we've proven that even the smallest acts of kindness can ripple across the stars, touching lives we may never meet." Her words earned a standing ovation, followed by a moment of silence as everyone reflected on how far they had come. Zixar, seated beside her, nodded approvingly. Though his mandibles no longer twitched with anxiety, his eyes glimmered with pride. He knew that the road ahead would still hold challenges, but he also knew they were ready to face them, not as separate entities but as one united force. And so the legend of Earth's star destroyers continued to grow, not as tales of terror, but as stories of hope. Across the galaxy, people looked to the skies and saw not darkness, but possibility. They dreamed of a future where differences were celebrated, where strength was measured not by weapons but by wisdom, and where every civilization, no matter how small or distant, had a place among the stars. For Commander Zixar and Captain Elena, Vega, the journey was far from over. But as they gazed out at the infinite expanse of space, they knew one thing for certain: the choices they had made, the risks they had taken, the bridges they had built, had changed the course of history forever. And in doing so, they had given the galaxy something it desperately needed: a reason to believe.